Hey, I'm excited. It's been a very somber week in many ways for decisions that had to be made, but I'm excited for the new chapter. I'm excited the governor's finally answered the call that we put out in October to have a public meeting on the budget. We're going to go in earnestly at 2 p.m. on Monday. Unfortunately, he rejected my call to have it in the Senate Assembly Room. I thought that would accommodate more public, more press, more members. But he wants to have it, I think, in his large conference room. So I'll take as many people as he'll allow me to take from the Senate in order for us to have the most robust dialogue. I'll yield for any questions people have.
What's the direct reason for replacing Roger Thompson?
You know, Roger Thompson has served his community, his state, with honor. There's not a finer gentleman than Roger Thompson. I like Roger Thompson personally. He's a very personal, close friend of mine. But you have to make decisions put us in the best position for transparency. And I felt like it was a clear, there was a clear need to change after last week. So the first 11 weeks of session were pretty flawless as far as transparency. There's no such thing as flawlessness, but we hit on almost every cylinder. Last week, week 12, we went dark, and a lot of decisions were arrived at without honoring the process. And I blame that really on the House of Representatives for forcing that to happen. But it's unacceptable, and we are absolutely wed to the process of transparency. And Roger Thompson pitched almost the whole game, and it's time to bring in a relief pitcher, and he's there and he's ready to go.
Is Senator Hall, are you guys going to be on the same place with negotiations, or are you guys walking some of that back?
There's, everything that was public, so everything we put in the resolution, everything they had on their website a couple weeks ago, that's our starting point. Deals made in the dark will not be honored. Deals made in front of the mic, we're not naive. The House of Representatives, the governor, have legitimate reasons to disagree with us on different parts of the budget. We will negotiate in good faith, but we are absolutely committed to making sure that our negotiations are done in a transparent manner that includes the subcommittee process and honors the new process. There's a new day in Oklahoma. The fact that the governor sent out an email to me and Charles at 4:20 yesterday asking for us to have a meeting, that's a win for Oklahoma. And I think the Oklahoma Senate forced that, and I'm proud to be a part of it.
Where do we stand with tax cuts? Because it seems both the Speaker and the Governor will come armed on Monday pushing for tax cuts.
Yeah, we've had these discussions ad infinitum, and the grocery sales tax elimination, the state portion, was something we agreed to early on in session to make sure that we knew what we could afford going into it. Obviously, there are two other legs to the stool, but we've got to have real discussions at the micro level on budget priorities in this deal. I know they're going to try to force it to just be about taxes. We have a strong record in the Oklahoma Senate of supporting tax cuts that are reasonable, rational, and sustainable. And we're open to listen to them. But we have made a very firm statement earlier this year that we were going to figure out which tax cuts we could afford. We passed the grocery tax elimination, and we moved on to looking at the budget thereafter.
Are there any tripping points that would be as big as the income tax cut so far as you reaching a budget agreement with the House and the government?
Well, I have some real concerns about pet projects that the House of Representatives tried to insert in the process last week.
Such as?
We will bring those up on Monday in a public meeting so they can defend it. I'm not going to sit here and put a straw man argument for what they believe, but they better come prepared to be able to answer those questions.
You mentioned a moment ago that you blame the House for these deals behind closed doors. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, they've never been on board with us having these in public meetings until I was excited. I read in one of the articles that Speaker McCall agreed to the 2 o'clock, so it's on. And so I'm excited that he's reluctantly come on board to this process. We, as you saw in the first 11 weeks, I think we have buy-in of 48 members on the transparent process. 48 of 48. We know we have 41-3 on the the resolution. I have no idea how many people in their side of the building support what they're putting forth. I don't even know if they know what they're putting forth. Because what they have put behind closed doors does not line up with what they have on the website. And so, you know, I hope they stand ready to ask questions and or they back off of the pet projects and just deal with this straight up.
Speaker McCall says you guys could reach a final agreement maybe on Monday.
No, that's not going to happen.
How long do you think it'll take?
I don't know, but we're not going to have a forced deadline on it. I think it's in the interest of some people to force an artificial deadline to be able to get what they want. We need to get resources to emergency management. There have been some devastating storms and lives lost and real issues there. This won't impede that ability. In fact, we will, whatever the governor tells us he needs in emergency management, we stand ready to deliver. But we won't, you don't have to get the entire budget done to do that. It's just like 3 weeks ago. They said that they didn't want to pay for teacher pay raises in the future, just that 1 year. And they said they wouldn't have a meeting on this until that's solved. That was a red herring. This is a red herring as well.
Do you know, were your subcommittee chairman in those meetings that former Chairman Thompson and?
There were some times that someone got called in or on the phone. Not every instance. I wasn't there either. But that's not a transparent process. That's a closed door meeting. That's the old way we did things. It's unacceptable.
And so what is if you can sum it up in layman's terms for the public, are things back to SJR 31? Are all the things that are on that House website that say Senate, you know, the change log and all those things, are those all to be sort of ignored at this point? I mean, what level of step back is this?
There's no step back. This is an absolute reaffirmation that we will do everything in the public eye. And so if they had a misunderstanding that there was some agreement behind closed doors, that's their misunderstanding. I've been very clear from day one, actually before day one, back in July, that we were not going to have closed door projects that benefit one member that happens to have a powerful position. This is about transparency and making sure we use taxpayer dollars in the most judicious manner and the most transparent. There's going to be things that get out of the budget that I absolutely hate. I do not want to spend money on a prison rodeo at DOC. I don't think it's even right for us to do. I think it goes back to like gladiator days. I really have a visceral reaction to it. However, it went through the process. It went through an open and transparent process on the Senate side, so you will see me zealously defend the ability of members to be able to get projects done in their district that they think are good, if and only if it goes through the process. And Senator Warren Hamilton has honored that every step of the way.
A little curious about the process. There were, I think, 6 or 7 subcommittee A&B meetings today. Myself and another member of our team were able to kind of cover 3 of them. In one that he covered, general government, I believe there were some votes taken. In one that I was at, natural resources, there were no votes taken. They said they'd come back Tuesday. I haven't heard yet what the report is from education. It's still wrapping up. Are there gonna be votes taken in subcommittee before there's a full AB? Like, what does that look like unfolding now?
Yeah, the simplest way I think to explain it and to understand it, if you're familiar with the way we did the ARPA process, where the subcommittees met, gathered information, then had a public meeting, and then made a recommendation to the full ARPA committee, that's the way this should work. Different committee chairs will handle it different ways. We want to make sure, I'm a big believer in delegating authority. And so the delegation of authority down to the subcommittees, making sure subcommittee chairs are truly empowered, not just given a list and said, hey, read this off at a meeting and say that this is a great deal, but really substantively involved. And I'll have to applaud. Senator Thompson's done an amazing job this year of getting them involved up until week 11. And then so Chairman Hall now is absolutely committed to that end, of making sure they're involved. That will look different in different subcommittees. So some may go a whole category, like, hey, we're going to go through this whole agency and vote on it. Others may say each line item. Do you support a parking garage at DEQ? Do you support whatever, not just the whole DEQ budget? I don't want to give them the latitude to be able to make those decisions that their subcommittee finds most appropriate.
Is there a place that's going to be chronicled? I just don't think that, certainly the public doesn't have the ability to go watch 7 subcommittee meetings. I don't think we have the ability to devote our.
Oh,
entire-
collectively you do. Teamwork
Well,
makes the dream work,
I
man.
proposed that last year.
Yeah.
It didn't happen, but maybe next year. But I mean, is there going to be a press release that says here's what the subcommittee's recommended? Is there going to be a Senate web portal? I mean, I just am curious. How do we know what the results of that process are?
Well, the way you know the results of what the Senate has done so far is Senate Joint Resolution 31, right? 31? I believe it's 31.
Senate resolution.
Senate resolution. Thank you. Man, you would catch that technicality. Senate Resolution 31. It shows exactly what we wanted per agency. It didn't break it down by each line item in there. That now the presentation on the floor absolutely did. We're reimagining some of our ability to get that information to members and to the public. I don't envision us doing a web portal, but I envision us being 100% transparent. We've led the way, and we will continue to lead the way on that.
Do you have any idea, even just early estimates, on what the storm damage from the past few days will cost?
I honestly do not. I know it's devastating. I've talked to members in their districts. I've talked to members who've talked to people who've lost homes, lost loved ones. It's going to be a big price tag. Unfortunately, we're used to dealing with that in Oklahoma, and we've got an Office of Emergency Management. It's under new leadership now, but they've been consistently great at what they do. Albert Ashwood did an excellent job when I was dealing with Mark Dower, when the Tulsa stuff, when I became governor for a brief while. He was a consummate professional, knew what he was doing. You will see us start moving on some Tier 2 exec noms next week. But what you will probably see even before that is a rapid movement of the Office of Emergency Management, that director, to make sure that she has the full confidence that she can do her job without having to worry about a confirmation hearing down the road.
From what I know, the governor's deadline to submit cabinet appointees for Senate confirmation, that list deadline was last night at midnight. Was Zoomel on that list?
I do not believe so.
Okay.
But believe it or not, I don't read every email that comes in. I read some that come in.
And then just for clarification, when he appoints someone interim and they don't have to go through that Senate confirmation, does he still have to send that list to you?
They still have to go through Senate confirmation. That's a erroneous thought. What happens is if they get appointed during the interim, next session they will have to go through the confirmation, so the 60th legislature, and then by sine die of next year, so next May, if they don't get confirmed, they're considered denied. The ones that have been submitted to us now, if we don't act on them by May 31st, or whenever we sine die, which I think will be May 31st, they will have been deemed disapproved unless we take action between here and the 31st.
There was some stories this week about U.S. News and World Report not receiving important data from the State Department of Education. This kind of follows in districts not getting their ESSER money on time, the teacher bonus thing. Have you talked with the superintendent about these issues, and are you concerned about what's going on over there?
I've talked to him about a myriad of issues over the last few months. We have not talked in the last, someone's getting a call from Barbara Hoberack. But we have not spoken recently. I do have some concerns, with the reports of upwards of 130 or so employees gone. Is that impeding their ability to get these simple things done that may harm some of our schools? I do have concerns. I did read the article about Jinx Public Schools and some other schools experiencing that issue and a downgrade and what their status is. We'll talk, but I have not had a chance to talk to him about that yet.
You mentioned there were some things that the House was not putting on its transparency website, some supposed agreements. I heard one of those earlier in a subcommittee meeting. Are there others that?
But wait, there's more. Yes, yes, there are a lot of those, but it's not my job to sell their pet projects, so I'll let them do that.
Senator Treat, you mentioned that the car tag legislation is one of your key priorities for this session. What would you say are some others that are still on the table you're trying to
Budget transparency.
aside from the budget?
Period.
Aside
Budget transparency, period.
Anything else?
Budget transparency. The process is of paramount importance. The end result may not look like something I want. Indeed, there will be things that I abhor probably that get in that budget, or that I really wanted that didn't make the cut. I'm one of 48 members. I'm not a king over here. We have to make sure that every member of this body, be they Republican, be they Democrat, be they aligned with Greg Treat or not, has a fair shake in getting their priorities heard and their district represented in the budget. That is the remaining priority I have this session.
Can you talk a little bit about the vote on the Senate floor today that discards the moratorium on municipalities raising the grocery tax?
Yeah, so great bill is my name on it. I loved it. That was a priority before today. I would have answered that the way yesterday.
I thought that was important on both sides.
Yeah.
That moratorium was important on both sides.
No, the moratorium came over to us from the House. You know, the House passed that in 2023 toward the end of session. They gave us a smorgasbord of tax cuts, as they said. They didn't say it, that was my word. Options to be able to pick from, which I don't think is really leading on revenue talks. But they did send us that grocery tax. We put it over, I believe, in rules and had it lie over the interim. Dumb luck, it wasn't wisdom on my part, but dumb luck, had we acted on that when they wanted us to act on it the year before, we would have precluded the city of Oklahoma City from doing their Thunder vote. And so that's one of the reasons I don't like to do rash decisions on revenue deals. There's unintended consequences to everything. But suffice it to say, in my dumb luck, we went through to the next year and still had that vehicle ready. That moratorium was not important to me, but I didn't want to send the vehicle back to the House for them to set on it all session. They sent us a live round. I wanted to send it to the governor. The moratorium I could live with. The moratorium originally was designed for a 2-year moratorium. Since we waited a year to take it up, it was only going to be a year moratorium, so I thought I could live with it, even though I didn't love it. But it was never a justification for why I supported it. Then we passed it, and several municipalities came to us and said, hey, does this apply to extensions of already existing sales tax streams? At first blush, I'm not a lawyer, so I just said, no, it doesn't. And then I said, but let me check with my attorneys. And people smarter than me told me, said, no, it does prohibit them from being able to do extensions on sales tax issues. And so I found it agreeable to eliminate the moratorium, and the speaker actually told me he wanted to do it, and we agreed to revoke that.
Thanks, everyone.